Hello, Mark here from Success with Options. I just wanted to come back and do another follow-up on our vertical spread trade. This will be the final video that we have on this particular trade as the trade has closed. Okay, we see here in this particular view on the Thinkorswim platform that our trade has in fact closed. We exited, as a matter of fact. This is the 9th of June. We're about just over, I think, right at about 2 weeks into this trade, and the one cancels order that we actually had in place. We had the order where we would cancel if it reached twice the credit, which was $1, and then also if it reached 80% of the credit, which was 10 cents. So it turned out first thing this morning when the market opened, the EWZ ETF more or less gapped up and created an immediate fill this morning. So we were out of the trade, and we went ahead and locked in our 40 cents a contract, or for two contracts that was $80 that we locked in. Okay, that's pretty much all that we have to talk about in the trade. I wanted to take a look really quick at the chart here and see what happened. And we can see that there were a couple of points here where we were looking like we might break down below that secondary trend line, the support trend line that we had going on here. But sure enough, EWZ went ahead and rallied off that, and it may still fail, but at this point we're out of the trade, and we'll just wait to see if we can get another setup, decide if we want to go ahead and take this trade again. But as we can see, it's been a pretty nice trending stock. We did pretty well on that trade. A couple of other things that I wanted to talk about in conclusion to this particular tutorial for the vertical spread is some of the additional tools that we can use as part of our trading system. I've talked a number of times about how our option trading system needs to be made up of a number of components, including position sizing, our entry and exit rules, keeping track of our trade in a trade log, and things like that. So I want to take just a moment and show you an example of something that we might have created. In fact, after I entered the trade, I went back and started putting together both a trade journal that I'm going to show you, as well as a trade log entry for both our EWZ position as well as our SPY position, the calendar trade that we've also been working on. So this is an example of a kind of trade log that we can create, and this can either be a paper trade log. We can create this in Microsoft Word, as you see here, and print it out and do the rest of it, or we can just keep it online, which is pretty much what I've done. One of the things that I've set up is just a place at the top of the trade where I can enter in the date that I entered the trade and capture the chart as it was when I entered the trade. And then I like to capture some things on the trade as well, as far as what kind of trade we put on. In this case, it was an EWZ bull put spread, the 50 and the 48 put spread, and that was for June. We took in a credit of 50, and I calculated just a quick and dirty ROI based on if I captured the full 50 cents, which we knew we weren't going to do. I also captured a couple of my exits. I only put on 2 exits, but we talked about a couple of different exits that we might have chosen to follow on this, and I probably, it would have been good for me to capture those as well. But at this point, I captured the 2 essential ones, and these are typically part of my trading system. These are typically just givens as part of the trade, that I will have some form of an 80% rule that allows me to lock in 80% of my initial credit on this kind of a trade, and usually I'll have an exit that is equal to twice the credit. A lot of it depends on kind of how close to the money I take the position, what's the probability of success, the size of the credit, and so forth, as to whether or not I'll just risk the whole spread on it, or whether I'll exit out at twice the credit. But in this case, we defined 2 exits. The first was the 2 times rule, and the second was our 80% rule. The other thing that I do is I leave room for some notes, and here we have a couple of different notes. One is on the 6-2, which was roughly about a week, and I talked about this in the first review tutorial, that we had a chance to close the trade for 15 cents. Well, I went ahead and captured that on here, that we could have exited, but I held on because of the trend that was going on. The other thing is just a couple of days later, I had a point where I just wanted to make a note that, I almost regretted staying in that trade, because we had a little bit of a scare there where it pulled back, and we see here 2 candles back, 3 candles back that we came close to coming down and breaking through that support level. But again, we went ahead. The fact that it was still in the trade, we went ahead and stayed with it. And then moving on to the trade, I'm on the second page here. Went ahead and marked that I'd close the trade. And I like to capture something like this where I just kind of capture the summary of the trade, which is, I locked in total profit of 40 cents a contract times 2 contracts. That's basically $80. I didn't count in this particular trade commission, because commission is going to be somewhat dependent on the commission schedule that you would negotiate with your particular broker. Just for simplicity's sake, I left that out. But definitely that's something that needs to be taken into consideration in terms of number of contracts that we take and whether we enter or just ride the trade out completely, or those sorts of things. But at any point, the other thing that I did was went ahead and recalculated my return on risk, or my reward risk ratio, because my actual reward wasn't 50 cents, it was 40 cents. But my risk in the trade was still only $1.50 because I took in that initial 50-cent credit. So I went ahead and calculated that, and the new return on risk, or reward risk, is 26%, which is still a pretty darn good return on that trade. The other piece that I wanted to talk about was the trade log. The trade log is slightly different from the trade journal in the sense that trade journal is typically kept around. You'd have a journal entry for each particular trade. The trade log is a nice little place where we can keep track of all of our trades in total. And what we have here is an example of just a very simple trade log. And there's a lot of ways that we can capture this. I talk about on my website under trade log some examples of some things that you want to capture. But the goal is to get a big picture view of how many of your trades are successful, how successful are they, what are your win-loss ratios and your reward-risk ratios and your expectancy and those sorts of things. So the whole goal of the trade log is to capture those kinds of things. So I just went ahead and captured the information on here, as we can see, capture the trade type, the credit, number of contracts, whether we're successful or not, what our gain-loss was, and then we just have a simple calculation formed here where we just divide the total gain loss by the number of contracts to get a per contract gain loss. So and then we see that these numbers ripple down to the section below and just keep a running total. So it's just a nice way to get a big picture view of how our overall set of trades are doing, because we don't measure our success by one particular trade or a couple of trades. We really need to take a look at a large group of trades, and the larger the group, the better, to get a perspective on what's your success rate of your particular trading style. So we want to make sure that we capture all of those sorts of things. So again, the trade journal is one component, the trade log is the other. I hope you found this video helpful. What you've just seen is an overview of vertical spreads as a trading strategy and an example of trading them. Successful options trading is not just a matter of knowing how to construct a trade or how to enter or exit the trade. Successful options trading is built around a trading system that includes a trading plan with rules for selecting the stock or ETF, rules for selecting the options, rules for entry and exit, and rules for money management. These elements help produce consistency, and that is the #1 attribute of a successful options trader. For more information on options strategies, building an options trading system, or options broker reviews, and more, please visit www.successwithoptions.com. Thank you and happy trading.